Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you the popular opinions tag, which is a tag that I saw on the channel of a girl called Julene. I will link her video down below because I thought it was very interesting to see, and I will also link the original video where this tag was created down below. Now this is a tag that kind of focuses on positivity, so talking about books that you love, which is obviously great. So let's get started. The first question is a popular book or series that you love, and I'm gonna start with the obvious here, which is The Lord of the Rings. This is definitely the series that got me into reading, that made me a fantasy reader. I read these books first when I was around 13, 14 probably. Yeah, and I just loved them, and I just can't thank J.R.R. Tolkien enough for changing my life as a reader. Then later on, I also read the Hunger Games series, the first trilogy, and absolutely loved it. This was my first kind of trial with the YA genre, and I was always a little bit apprehensive. I started reading adult fiction very, very early, so going back to read these kind of YA books felt a little bit weird, but this was definitely a game changer for me, and I love the Hunger Games. And then lastly, an ongoing series that is currently probably my favorite series that I'm following is the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend, which, you know, it's just a magical, fun series. This is middle grade, which is even younger. But I just love the world. I love Jessica Townsend's humor. I think she is perfection. Her books are perfection. Yeah, I really, really love this. So these would be 3 series that are popular and that I love very much. The next question is an underhyped book or series that you love and wish was more popular. I have a couple here. I could probably go on and on and on. But, you know, I wanted to keep it short and sweet because I'm running out of battery as always. And so the first one I wanted to mention is Unbroken. This is a story collection edited by Marieke Niekamp. And this is a short story collection that you know, has a lot of genres in it. It is YA, and it focuses on disabled main characters. And a lot of the authors also have some kind of a disability. It's not all own voices, I believe, because sometimes the authors don't write about the kind of impairment that they have, but it's a wonderful collection to get you into authors that might have disabilities, and also, you know, just reading from points of views that maybe are different from yours. And I feel like especially with the disability rep, we can all still do so much better. And the only negative thing I can say about this collection is that it has a lot of stories that are more on the mental health side, and I just wish there would have been a little bit of a better balance, because I have you know, a friend, my best friend actually, is in a wheelchair, so I'm still looking for books where wheelchairs play a bigger role. I think there's only one story in here, and yeah, that's just something that, you know, I want to read more of, so I thought I would get more of that in this book. Then we have Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, and this is a book set in Nigeria, I believe. No, I could be wrong. No, it's set in Nigeria, and this follows a young couple. Both of them are highly educated, and they decide to marry for love, and the family of the husband isn't that happy, and the problems really get bigger when the wife doesn't get pregnant. And because, you know, in Nigeria, it is mostly viewed that if a couple doesn't get pregnant, it's the woman's fault. She has to go through, you know, treatments, and also, you know, just living with that knowledge that people think there's something wrong with you because you don't conceive a child. And this book just deals with that, yeah, in a very, very heartbreaking way, and I thought this was an amazing read. I don't want children, so reading about pregnancy, motherhood and stuff like that is not always my favorite, but the way this book handled this whole topic was fantastic, and I actually am looking forward to rereading that because I love it so much. Then also one of my absolute favorites is All the Truth That's in Me by Julie Berry. Now this book was hyped a couple of years ago, maybe in 2014 or something, I don't remember. This is the first Julie Berry book that I've read, and I had completely the wrong idea when I went into this. Again, this is YA, but it is historical fiction, and it's actually set in a time and place that feels very like Settlers. So that was very interesting because I had never read anything like it before, and it basically deals with a girl, or the main character is a girl, who disappeared, and when she came back to the village she didn't talk anymore, and you're following this girl, you're in her head, and she is basically telling the story to the person she loves and she can't be with. So this is written in second person, which I thought was very interesting, and also the main character has my name, which is always an interesting experience, and especially the combination of these two things made this like a very immersive read. But then again, I just loved the story. I remember, sitting at the bus stop reading this. I could not stop. I loved it so much. I almost missed my bus. So yeah, this I've read this 2 times now and I still love it. And then lastly, a kind of middle grade young YA series that I really enjoy. I have this second book? Yeah, the second book here. I think the first book is called The Wind Singer, and it's by William Nicholson. And this is a fantasy series. The first book is definitely middle grade. I would say the second and third read more like young YA. And though in these books you follow 2 siblings, Beau and Kestrel, as their kind of city is destroyed, and you just kind of travel their world with them. It's really hard to describe because every book has its own storyline, and still they are connected through the world and the characters. But yeah, I just really like this series. I think it's very cool if you like thinking about different types of society. So the first book focuses on a society that is very much meritocratic. So people are valued according to what kind of work they do and how much they contribute to society. And so you have these different rings. It's a little bit similar to the idea of the Hunger Games, I guess, where you have just different rings with different colors, and according to the color is your worth. So the most powerful people who have the most important jobs are, I think, in the white district in the middle, and then you have different colors going outwards, and I think brown is like the most, or gray is the ring that is around the city, and that's like the poorest people. And yeah, that's the first world. And then in the second book, they are in a city that is basically built on slavery, and the thing is that everyone in that city is a slave but the one ruler, so that is the master. So that is also a very interesting concept because it makes you think about freedom and how freedom might also hold humanity as a whole back. Yeah, so it's very, very interesting, and makes you think about, what it means to be human, what it means to be part of a community, what it means to be part of humanity, and how, different societies can be structured and what's the good and the bad about it. So yeah, I just really like that series because it makes you think about stuff like that, even if you're still a teenager. And then the last one I wanted to mention also had a time where it was hyped, and that is My Lady Jane. And this is a book written by 3 authors. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and it is very funny. So this is a historical fiction kind of fantasy. It is inspired by the time when, oh my god, I think it's right after Henry VIII or something like that. in England and, you know, just following a very tumultuous time in English history when the kind of separation between the English church, I don't know what it's called in English, actually. Yeah, but in the time where that kind of separates off of the Catholic Church and the kind of religious troubles that were during that time are portrayed in the book as two different people. So there's people who are just humans, and then there's people that can turn into animals. And they have a name for that, but it's so long since I listened to that book. I really want to reread it, but I love that book. I think the humor was so on point and the characters were great, and there's this one Scottish character, and that was when I fell in love with the Scottish accent, because the narrator, in my opinion, did a good job. I don't know if that's really true, but yeah, one of my favorite audiobooks, and I always hope that more people pick the first book up, because as I said, it was hyped for a while, but I feel like nobody's talking about that series. And the third book came out last year, and it never came out on Audible in Germany. I don't know why. I've messaged them about it and stuff. So yeah, so I've been thinking about just buying the physical books and reading them again. The books are not related, they just have that kind of similar theme where it takes one Jane from like history or literature and it kind of, yeah, just goes and runs with it. So the second book is My Plain Jane, which is inspired by, what's it called, Jane Eyre. And the third book is My Calamity Jane, and I think that's kind of like a, I don't know, like a, I actually don't know. What is that one about? I have no idea because Audible doesn't have it. Okay, but yeah, those would be my picks for books that I wish more people would pick up. Then we have a romance, love triangle, or OTP that you love. And I'm not a big romance reader, so what came to my mind as like a romance book is Persuasion by Jane Austen. That's actually one of my favorite kind of like straight up romance books. I really like the relationship of the two characters, and this is a second chance romance. So we have two characters who were in love before, but the family of the woman was like, no, you can't marry that guy, and so they're separated, and now it's years later and they actually meet again, but both of their circumstances have changed, and so now they have the option to come back together, but it's not really clear if he wants to because he was rejected. So yeah, this is, yeah, I just really like Persuasion. I really like it, so I'm going for this one. And then a book where I just love the relationships overall during the series. We only have 2 books so far, but I'm hoping for a 3rd book this year. And that is the kind of Library of the Unwritten. I don't know, the series is called Hell's Library by H.A. Hagworth. And I just like the way that the relationships grow during this book. The main character is bi, and with the other characters you slowly find out what their sexualities might be, because these are all, they're not human. So we have, what is she? She is a, come on, tell me. She's a muse. We have a muse, we have a demon, we have an angel, and we have a character from a book. And so, yeah, they, in the first book, they form these relationships and you think you know where they're kind of going. But then in the second book, they just develop so much and go in different directions. And yeah, I just feel like this is such a complex cast of characters and they have such complex feelings for each other. And there's also like this theme where they all love each other in a way, but maybe some more romantically than others. So I'm really excited to see where the relationships go in the 3rd book. And yeah, that was something that came to my mind with that prompt. The fourth question is your favorite genre, and that would be fantasy. I think in general fantasy is definitely my favorite genre, and I do read a lot of other stuff as well. I do read very widely. I love, crime novels and thrillers. I love some romances, especially during the Christmas time. I love books that just focus on important issues. I do like YA contemporaries if they deal with important topics like LGBTQIA plus characters or racism and themes of, just things that are important. Disability, for example, would be amazing if I find more YA with disabled characters. So I like that a lot. But I think, if you're like, what's your favorite genre? I will always say fantasy. And then a popular genre that you want to read more often. And that one's difficult because I feel like if I want to read more of something, I usually do. So I guess my answer would be I would like to read more fantasy sometimes because I realized that because I like to read quite broadly and I also try not to buy too many books, and fantasy is usually series and I'm a binger. So usually I don't read the cool fantasy series that I'm really looking forward to, and we get to a question about that in a second. But I have this really bad habit of not reading the fantasy series I'm excited about because I would have to buy like multiple books at once and they would take up a lot of my reading time, and so I rather read other books for some reason. So yeah, that's something I would like to change. So it's a bit of a twist on the question, I guess. Then we have number 5, a popular or beloved character that you love or a character that you feel deserves more love. And again, so many. Like, I cannot read a book where I don't at least love one character. You have to make me care about at least one of them. So, I mean, we can go through this. I love Katniss. Katniss is one of my favorite female characters ever. I really feel for her. I think she is amazing. She's amazing as a teenage girl character. I love it. Then we have the main character in All the Truth That's in Me, which I wouldn't say is my favorite character, but she's interesting and she has my name. How cool is that? Obviously, the main character in Stay With Me is amazing as well. I think that she goes through so much in that book and you always feel for her. Yeah, definitely. I love all of the characters in the Nevermore series, like all of them. The Magnificat, like how cool is the Magnificat? I love Jupiter, he's amazing. I love Morrigan. In my head it was just like Mog, because that's her weird nickname Jupiter gave her. I love Morrigan, I love her friends, and yeah, I love everyone in that series. The dwarf, vampire dwarf, just don't get me started. That series is so hilarious. Obviously, I have a lot of characters I love in The Lord of the Rings. I think my favorites definitely are Frodo and who else? It's hard when I think of the books. I always think of the movies and then you have your favorites, but in the books it's a little bit more difficult. But one of my favorite characters in The Lord of the Rings, and this is like the most controversial, it's gonna get here, it is Gollum. I love him. I feel for him. He is such a poor little cookie and I would love to help him. And he is the first character that I cried about in a book ever. Promise, I promise you, was my first. I love the characters in the H.A. Heckworth series as well. As I said, they're the most interesting because they are all such unique characters, especially, with having an angel and a demon is a little bit like generic, but then having a book character and a muse, like, okay. But yeah, I love these characters, especially when they interact together and the relationships they have. But yeah, I do love them all. Obviously now we have the whole Shadow and Bone thing, so that is what came to my mind first. And actually one of my favorite, definitely beloved characters is Jasper. Jasper from the Six of Crows series. He is my favorite. I love him so much with all my heart. Also Nikolai from the Shadow and Bone books. He's in the second and third book of the Grisha trilogy. Nikolai is so great. And then Soya. I mean, if you've watched my vlog for King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, you know that Soya is my favorite character in that whole universe. And yeah, okay. So a lot of characters, and I think Soya is the character that deserves the character who deserves more love. So if you haven't read the King of Scars duology yet, I would highly recommend, and keep in mind that this duology is Soya's duology and not Nikolai's. Okay, then we have number 6, an autobuy author. That's always a evil question because I am bound to forget someone, but definitely for me, autobuy authors by now, Libra Dugo, I have to say it. She might not be perfect, but all the books she brought out, later in her career, I really loved. So it is definitely Libra Dugo. I do like Tessa Gretton, but I think she actually has a book out that I haven't bought, so it's kind of like wrong. And then who else? Obviously Jessica Townsend. Like, she could write a newspaper and I would buy it. I have a lot of authors. Angie Thomas, obviously. Angie Thomas, Aiden Thomas as well, I think, for now. I would have to see, how he progresses. But the first 2 books by Aiden Thomas I really liked. And then it's, again, a little bit of a cheating answer because Case and Calendar has a lot of books out that I have not bought. But I think that at least with... No, it's probably a bad answer. But like the later books that are not like middle grade reads, all of those I want to read. So I'm slowly making my way there. But yeah, I just have so many authors that I really love. And yeah, I will always forget some. So number 7, a popular book trope that you love reading about. I don't know if it's popular, but I like any fantasy that is kind of in a desert setting or anything like that. I really enjoy that. I don't like the kind of traditional medieval fantasy that has like all the traditional creatures. So yeah, something like a desert fantasy or, something just more interesting, I guess, than the traditional European fantasy. I'm also really excited about all the like more Asian inspired fantasies that are coming out now. And yeah, I think just like, fun settings is something I really enjoy. I'm not really one for the like very traditional high fantasy stuff. Yeah, I'm really bad with these kind of trope questions because I never know what it actually is a trope. I feel like I know all the romance tropes, but then I don't read romance. That's not helpful. But in like fantasy and stuff, I don't really know how the tropes are called. So I'm just bad at that. Number 8, a popular series that you are excited to read. And I mean, I could go through my wish list and we would be here for days. But I really want to read the Poppy War books. I really want to read the Jade City books by Fonda Lee, I think. I have so many. I want to read The Empire of Sands by Tasha Suri. And yeah, just so many. There's so many. Right now I have checked out, it's not a series, but it's 2 books in Germany, so I'm gonna count it. I have The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Also, oh god, what is called? Okay, we have the Red Rising series that I've been interested in for a while. Also the City of Brass. I don't know what the series is called. The Devabats trilogy. That one I'm really excited about. I think Graia's War is a duology I really want to read. And what is the one that I'm looking for? I can't believe that I forgot what it's called. Now I really am going through my wish list. Oh yeah, the what's the series called by N.K. Jemisin? Like the really popular trilogy. I really want to read that as well. The Diviners. the Diviner series. That is one that I've been waiting for to be finished for such a long time, and I still have not bought the books. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me, but yeah, I'm really excited for the Diviners as well. So these are some, you know, I have so many on my wish list and I usually wait until they're finished, and then I never read them at all because I'm rubbish at reading series. Okay, and the last question is a popular book and film where you love the story in both formats. And I think for me that's definitely Pride and Prejudice. I am one of those people who like the 2005 movie and I'm not sorry about it. Then also The Hunger Games. I do think that the movies are quite fun, and also Lord of the Rings. I do love the movies. They're one of my comfort watches, if that exists. Comfort films. Then The Shadow and Bone. I don't like the Shadow and Bone books so much, but I did like Six of Crows and everything that came after. So that one as well. And I did really like the show. So that would be some. I think I had another one in mind. Oh, one that is not so often talked about is The Human Stain. I really enjoyed that one as well. And I had like really interesting themes. I think the author is a little bit problematic, but he's a white man, so I'm not surprised. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. Arrival. Arrival is a fantastic short story and also an amazing movie. So yeah, that's some for you. So I think this video was a little bit of a mess, but I hope you can forgive me. I do have a migraine, and also right in the middle my camera lost the energy supply and it's already running out again. So yeah, this would be my answers for the popular opinions tag. And again, I will link the original creator and Jolene where I saw the tag first. I will link both of those down below, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, leave a like or nice comment. I always appreciate those, and if you subscribe, I will talk to you soon. Bye!